All right, joining us today is an aspiring individual who knows the true meaning of discipline, hustle, and teamwork. As a former Division I and Division II athlete, he has won 3 championships during his college basketball career. But his journey didn't stop on the court. Transitioning into the professional world, he's now a successful digital marketing strategist and the founder of his own business. With a passion for helping others level up, whether in their personal growth, professional careers, or investment strategies, he's here to share his unique insight and experience. Please welcome Coleman Edwards.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be here.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Can you give us an idea about just your journey from high school and college and how it relates to recruitment and just how you got your start in the beginning?
For sure. Yeah, I went to high school here in Houston, Texas, in the Fort Bend district. If anybody's familiar with Fort Bend, definitely saw some talent out there. Played with some pro guys, some guys who actually went pro, like Kelly Oubre. He was in the conference, the Harrison twins. So some different guys you may be familiar with. Going into my senior year, I had 2 scholarships, one to the Citadel that was in South Carolina. It's kind of a military school. Yeah. And the other one to the University of New Orleans, which kind of seemed a little bit too coincidental to be a coincidence. I'm originally from New Orleans. And so that's where I ended up signing to and played my first 2 years of college ball at the University of New Orleans.
Was it pretty evident these guys were high profile and high caliber type talents when you were competing against them, or is that something that kind of was a surprise once they made it to their destination and making it in the NBA?
I mean, some of the guys I played against, man, I knew that they were going big. Kelly Oubre being one, but a couple other guys, the Harrison twins, they've been top recruits, and I was always kind of matched up with these top guys, especially at my high school, because I was, the best player on the team. Now, on the AAU side of things, I saw all kinds of talent across the Houston area. De'Aaron Fox, we played against his team multiple times, so matched up with some of these guys, and you can kind of tell. Who's got it and who may be going far.
I'm just curious, how did that affect you as far as your approach to the game when you're around such high caliber players? Did that help you focus more on being a pro, or were you more laser focused about life after your student athlete days?
So, I mean, it was definitely inspiring to be able to play against some of the best guys in the city and to know that, you're on that level. I think that gave me confidence to know I was on that level. To a certain degree, it was sometimes a bit discouraging though, because it's like, how could I get to their level, right? How they're on that next level. And so it kept me motivated, but also kept me humble kind of at the same time. And I did have a vision of playing pro ball. Over time, that vision started to seem a little bit more distant, going against some of these top guys. And that was part of the challenge. And I'm sure many athletes face that challenge as well.
Well, Cole, I'm really impressed about your consistency on winning. And I think people just overlook it a lot of times as far as what it takes to win. They think it just falls out the sky and it just happens. But, that there's a lot of behind the scenes things that happen for that. And since you have more experience to being on that winning side of the column, I'm just curious of knowing from a high school perspective coming into college, was it some things you had to unlearn in order to win in college, or was the foundation already set in high school for you to walk into winning in a major way once you got to college?
I love that question because I definitely had to unlearn some things. Being the star player on my high school team, you get a freedom. You get the freedom to take bad shots. You get the freedom to kind of do your thing on the court. But when you get to that next level, I mean, everybody was the man on their high school team. I mean, you thought you were the man, but he won state over here. He was the man. He took his team to state. And so I had to unlearn some things for sure. But on the other side, my AAU team, I was fortunate enough to play with TJ Ford, elite. I'm not sure if anybody out there is familiar with TJ Ford. He played pro ball, and he had his first. I was a part of his first AAU team. And in that program, that's where I learned a lot of the winning mentality. I learned from a professional athlete. He had pros coming in the gym, the likes of James Posey, and some different champions that were able to kind of give us some tidbits. And again, just being in that environment It helps you believe and understand what it takes to be a winner and what it takes to win. So I had both ends of the stick in high school that I was able to carry those experiences into college.
Yeah, you talk about that transition from high school to college, and it's a big jump. It was a big jump for me, and I know it was a big jump for many of my teammates. But I think a lot of times it boiled down to not being able to accept the role I needed to play versus the role my ego wanted me to play, and that goes to academics as well as athletics. Academically, I can get away with just writing stuff and scribbling stuff and on the bus, right, on the way to school. But when I was in college, I had to really study. I really had to focus, and the same thing as far as how I approached the game. I was just so much better than people in high school, then that just wasn't going to cut it in college. So I'm curious of what that looks like for you, being a winner, being able to step outside yourself and say, you know what, this is going to be what's actually going to help me win versus this is just what I'm accustomed to doing previously. What gave you the maturity of doing that? What helped you not get stuck on yesteryear and say, this is what's going to help me win. This is going to help us win. Where'd you get that maturity from?
No, for sure. I think I did get stuck for a moment when I got to University of New Orleans. I was used to having the ball in my hands, and just playing a little bit more free. Now, when I got to college, the coach was pretty militant, and there was already guys in that position that I really wanted, and so I did bump my head for a bit in time. But in bumping my head, I was able to learn and adapt. We had some really good guys in front of me that I was able to learn from. I think the biggest thing in that position is keeping an open mind. At a young age, it's hard to have an open mind. We're really one track minded at such a young age when you're going into college. And so I had to take a step back and open my mind up to different possibilities on the court and otherwise, but especially on the court. And it really goes like that for anything you're doing in life. Is if you're good at something, why not become great at that? I heard this analogy one time. They said you can't stop James Harden going left, so why would he go right? I thought that was hilarious. And to a certain extent, you can learn from that. I mean, if you can't stop me going left, then I'm gonna keep going left. And I say that to say, man, I was a good shooter. They put me in some shooting positions, and while I wanted the ball in my hand, I helped our team win games shooting the jump shot. So finding something you're good at was what I had to do, and I think I did that all right.
That brash coaching works for some coaches, but for some players it doesn't work. Sometimes coaches get players that feel like, you're hating on me, or you're not using me for my best of my abilities, or, you don't want to see me win. Even though you hit a wall there, you're able to autocorrect and kind of make your next move your best move. What kind of advice would you give those student athletes that may be going through that process of being able to get out of that, and just kind of share your story about going through something similar?
For sure. I mean, I thought the coach was hating on me. Bell, I thought the coach. That's actually what I said. I was thinking the coach was hating on me for a long time, and so I had to. Luckily, I had some people to consult, like a TJ Ford. I had my father who helped me grow up playing the game. And my brothers played ball, so I had some people to keep it real with me. And they kept it real. They said, Cole, shoot, if you're not the guy, then you're not the guy. There's some guys in front of me that had me beat. I hadn't beaten them for certain positions and certain playing times. I hadn't beaten them in those opportunities, and my ego was saying, coach is hating on me. But I was able to mature out of that, got some good advice, I got some guidance, and I end up transferring from the University of New Orleans to Southern Nazarene University. Well, first, actually, before I transferred, we won a championship. So we did win that championship. I learned so much from that experience in taking a step back and playing my role. I said I could play this role better somewhere else. I could have more opportunity somewhere else. So I did. I transferred to Oklahoma, Southern Nazarene University, and I took all that I learned and, I was able to be successful over in Oklahoma as well.
Me myself, I played at a JUCO out of Utah, and then I also played at a Division II school in Arkansas. So I don't know anything about this next question I'm asking you, but how was it playing at Division I? Like, what was the big difference that you experienced when you played at Division I?
Man, that was the biggest eye opener for me was, man, these dudes was dogs. I mean, you get to that D1 level. I mean, it's almost like a life or death situation. Funny enough, these people are playing. They came from environments. A lot of people come from environments where ball is their way out. They really don't consider anything else but ball. Ball is one way, and so when you are on the opposite end of him, you got to be a dog just like him or her. If so that's the first thing. When you get to that D1 level, it's some dogs, and so you got to really quickly adapt to cutting out all the excuses. There's no more excuses. 6 a.m. means 6 a.m. If you're there at 6:05, you'll be in the bleachers or you'll be cut. And so these coaches at that level, they're getting paid. They're getting paid to win games. So that's all that's on their mind is win games. So that's the first thing at D1 I learned quick is that if you ain't winning, then you ain't doing nothing. They don't care about anything else. So I had to adapt to that very quickly. And then the second thing is that provision. You realize like, dang, do I really want to play professional ball? This is what it would take to play professional ball, and you really got to be in or you're out. There's no teetering the fence on that D1 level.
That's pretty wild. What was that transition? What was that transition process coming from Division I to Division II? Like, what are the things looking back that you think that just kind of stuck out? That was like, that's a difference.
Not for sure. When I transitioned to D2, I did some tryouts or some visits, and they offered me Southern Nazarene University in Oklahoma City. They offered me on the visit. Man, I was so happy. Couldn't wait to get down there. And once again, I thought I was just gonna be the man. I said, "Oh, I'm gonna come down to D2 from D1, and I'm gonna just be the guy." And I realized, man, there's some dogs on that D2 level as well. And so I had to get in there and earn my spot. It was actually a bit of a challenge there to earn my spot, but I knew what I had to do. And man, the guys on my team just had a great group, which you don't always get. So that's the first thing that I know it takes is you got to be in the right environment. You got to have the right teammates. You have to be a team. A lot of times, it's a lot of individualism. We all want to be the man. And I was able to be more selfless in that D2 environment because I knew we could win. So I was very selfless. We already had some star guys in the positions that we wanted, and I came in and I filled the role. And that was super difficult coming from a D1 program to a D2 program, to come in and fill a role, be a role player. It definitely shot me in the ego, but I realized knew I had to do it, but it was so apparent that this is how we're going to win games. And that's exactly what we did. We meshed great. We shot the ball well, and we won games. We had discipline in that organization, and man, we made it happen.
Man, there's such a stigma about being in a transfer portal. People call you soft. People call you not buying into the team. People call you a quitter. Did you feel any of that stigma going through that process yourself? Or were you just so laser focused on what you wanted to achieve? And I asked that question, man, because a lot of people are carrying that weight of, going through the transfer portal, not knowing how to navigate it, and they're needing some advice on how to navigate it in a way that's going to be profitable for them and their experience as being a student athlete. What advice would you give them for that?
No, I felt it. I think when you enter that transfer portal, you really need some blessings. Like you really need to have some momentum on your side, and that's what I had. Winning a championship at the University of New Orleans put momentum on my side. I was coming from a winning program. I had a nice highlight tape that actually showcased that I could get some buckets. And with that, and then I also was single track minded. I was determined. I'll tell you a quick tidbit, and I was telling my folks like, look, y'all, I'm thinking about transferring. And my parents and my support team, they didn't really jump to that idea. Because I was leaving a winning program. We had just won the championship, the conference championship. So to leave, it didn't quite register why I would do that. But I knew I had momentum, and I knew that I was not getting the right, I was not in the right environment over there. So you got to have momentum when you enter the transfer portal. That's the first thing I would say. You want to get some tape. You got to showcase your wins, Got to have momentum, and then you got to have relentless determination to email, message, pick up the phone, call. I mean, you got to be one track minded, determined that you're going to get another scholarship somewhere else, and that's what I have.
Do you think that winning mentality came from? Like, what seed, what spark, what origin story could you share as far as that? Because that's not innate in everyone. Everyone doesn't have that winning mentality. Everybody doesn't have that winning approach. Where'd you get it from?
For sure. I mean, I think this part goes levels deep. It goes levels deep. So, I mean, just a few levels I'll touch on. The first level is just like self belief, self confidence. I mean, you do have to, you've got to do something to start to believe in yourself. And at a young age, I was always nice. I was always nice with it. Always typically the best player on my team, the youth teams growing up. And so for me, and also I had brothers that played ball. So we always competed against each other. And so when you talk about that permission slip, um, that competitive spirit, it has to be cultivated. And when you have a competitive spirit and you win early, it's instilled in you. So from a young age, I was very competitive, had my brothers to go against. I was always pretty talented and was able to win. Now, the second layer to that is when you start to face better competition. And when you start to face better competition, two things happen. Either you get encouraged or you get discouraged. And I was able to always stay encouraged by the competition I faced. So even when I lost, I always saw that, there's room for improvement. And then as long as I keep working, then I could win. My pops played a huge factor in that. I know not all of us are fortunate enough to have a father figure in our lives. And if you're not fortunate enough to have a father figure in your life, you really are you really have to go out of your way to get that inner confidence, like that inner courage to be a winner. Luckily for me, I had him in my life, and he always told me I could win. We looked up to winners. When we would put the game on, what are we gonna watch tonight? We put the game on. Man, we want to see who's gonna win. Like that's what it was all about in our house. So that's how I got it early. And then lastly, with that, playing with TJ Ford, man, this dude he was just a fountain of knowledge. You know what I mean? His point guard, like you said, he was a floor general. So when I was in that high school, the AAU, I just tried to soak it up from the professionals. I was fortunate enough to be around the pros, champions like James Posey. I mean, these guys won championships at the highest level. So I always was right there. So your environment is super important when it comes to having that mentality. You have to surround yourself with that winning mentality. And I was fortunate enough to be surrounded by that my whole life.
Again, that winning mentality a lot of times gets overlooked. But I'm reminded of a time when I went to a high school game, and it was this team that was ranked number one, and they were losing. They were losing by like 15 points with 3 minutes to go in the game. And I noticed something that some people may have overlooked. Maybe they saw it as well. I don't know. But it was glaring. And that was that number one team, though they were down, their faces still had a mentality of, we're going to win this game. They're down by 15 with 3 minutes to go. And they're still looking like we're going to win this game. And what's funny is as the time went down, the team that everyone thought wasn't supposed to be in even the gym with them, let alone the same parking lot as them, as far as win-loss margin, that team, their facial expression looked like we're not supposed to be here. So they're playing not to lose instead of playing to win, and it was just evident on their faces as far as their winning mentality or lack thereof that they weren't going to win that game. Spoiler alert, that team that was down by 15 with 3 minutes to go, they ended up winning that game. And I think it had a lot to do with that winning mentality. Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever seen that in your experience of winning?
Man, 100%. And that's why it takes a team. It takes a team. I was on some good teams, but what you said was so true. And I've seen that play out so many times. The team that's supposed to win, no matter where the momentum swings, they're not nervous. They feel like they're going to win the game. And what happens is at the end of the game, the team that doesn't believe that they should win, they end up giving it up. They make stupid turnovers or they start taking shots when they give up the game. And And that's what I know to be true, like you said, in sports or anywhere in life. You have to have that unwavering confidence. Like, I don't care who I'm up against. And that's why those triumphant stories, to me, is what I study. I study the triumph stories. And my teammates at University of New Orleans, man, we had some dogs on that team, dudes that dudes that just got it in. You know what I mean? And then even in Oklahoma, same way. Man, I was on the man. We just had dudes that just, I mean, they were just about winning. And it really just takes that. Like, if one person has that mindset and we're practicing, you realize you pick that up. Like, dang, this dude got that dog in him. You know, he got something in him. Let me pick it up. And it's contagious. It's contagious. And so we were able to just spread that mentality everywhere I went. I knew I was a winner. And so I always made sure my teammates knew we could win. I don't care if we're a D2 team playing a D1 program. We played Oral Roberts, and man, we blew them out the water. And of course, we were the D2 and they were D1, but we just had that in us. It's like that mentality. So, man, fostering that mentality, that winning mentality, it is not only contagious, but it's energetic.
On the winning teams that you've been a part of, was there internal leadership? I mean, because it's one thing to say, when the coach is looking, we're going to do what we're supposed to be doing. We're going to hold each other to a high metric of success. But internally, when the coach is not looking, was there leadership amongst the group when coaches weren't around?
It's got to be internal leadership. It has to be internal leadership. You have to have a leader or at least a hierarchy of leaders. And that goes into playing your role as well. You know, there's guys with egos where, and I've seen this happen as well. And dudes end up getting cut from the team or quitting because they couldn't fall in that hierarchy. And we think that it's a slight to us. You know, if I'm not the head guy, then I'm slighted or I'm disrespected. But that's not the case. So it has to be a hierarchy of leadership. Coach, it's got to be a player that we all are kind of following their lead. He's got to be setting the example. Now, if he is not bringing it that day, if something's going on in his personal life, you got to have that second guy. Now, you got to have that second guy to pick him up and pick the rest of the guys up with you. And so that's when the opportunity starts to come in. So even if you're the third or fourth guy, right, there's going to be a day where that guy, he's having a bad day. He's having an off day. And you need to be able to pick his energy up so that he can pick the next guy's energy up. So now we all have energy. And so there's for sure a hierarchy, coach around or not. You got to have guys that want to win. You got to have guys that hold themselves accountable. And there's got to be an accountability practice amongst the whole team. So we had a group message. And so 30 minutes before practice, we already firing in that group message. We're already firing it up. You know, what's the word? Who's getting a bucket today in practice? I'm coming at you. And so we already had that thing fired up. And I think that helped us really come together as a team and hold each other accountable.
How was that hierarchy established as far as the internal leadership? Is it the person that scores the most points? Is it the person that can bench press the most? Is it the person that can run the fastest? Like, what does that look like? The person that has better stats? What does that look like as far as establishing that internal leadership? And who gets crowned that responsibility?
Well, I've seen it happen a couple of different ways, but typically iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
So if my iron sword is sharp and yours is dull, then I'm all at practice. I'm already cutting you off. Like we already gonna establish right here, right now, who's the alpha, right? And so the programs that I've been that won, man, we went up against guys head on. It was a lot of competition, very competitive environments, and we called people out, and we went up against people. And so that's typically how I've seen it established best. Is it's in the spirit of competition. So you don't really want to, no one was really hurt. There was no real fights, maybe a couple fights, but nothing real personal. it was all in the spirit of getting better and getting closer to a championship. But that competition is what brings out that hierarchy. Of course, you're going to have guys who are more talented than others, but that doesn't always mean that they're the leaders. We had a couple guys that weren't the most talented, but they always kept the motor going. They were a leader on that team. They didn't score the most points. They didn't have always, the highest shooting percentage, but they just had that motor and that competitive spirit that kept everything and kept everyone in check.
Hey, listen, great information. And I think in a controlled environment, people can pick this stuff out and add it to their game and win, right? But then you get out in the real world and you see that, people lose games and they lose a lot of them. Sometimes you get in the funk of losing. Sometimes you need to rewire your mentality as far as how you approach the game to win. What type of advice would you give those individuals that are not winning currently, but aspire to win and they want to just kind of get out of the funk that they're in right now by rewiring their brain to having more winning mentality and a winning mindset moving forward?
Yeah, that's a good one. Typically those negative thoughts get more negative thoughts. Those losses lead to more losses, and it does kind of spiral down.
Yeah.
The first thing that, like, when I was in a losing environment, the first thing you feel is the energy starts to change. The energy changes. People they stop hanging out with each other. We don't really hang out like that. There's no genuineness. I'm just gonna put my backpack on and I'm gonna get up out of here. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Y'all be easy, man. Peace out. We're not. There's no camaraderie. The camaraderie disappears. The thing about basketball is it's a team sport.
Yeah.
And so when you start to lose games, the first way to get it back on track is we all got to sit at the lunch table together. And this sounds corny. This sounds super corny, but I really believe it to be true. We all got to leave here together. So we got to start getting closer. Like, I got to know how your brother doing, man. How your people doing, man? Like, getting closer as a team. Otherwise, what'll happen is we'll start pointing fingers. Man, it's his fault. It's his fault we're losing. It's the coach's fault we're losing. And it ain't my fault. I don't really care. And people start not to care, start pointing fingers. The opposite effect happens when you get closer. It's not his fault. Man, that was my bad. That was my bad. I should have dove on that ball. Man, that's my fault, man. I should have, right? And when you start, because I care about you, I'm going to pick it up. Hey, I'm going to pick up the slack today. And so that's how we were able to get back on track. We really had a close group of guys. And every program won't have that. But if you really want a winning program, it's got to be in the culture.
What kind of advice would you give those individuals that are trying to establish a sense of culture as it relates to that internal leadership, but they don't want to seem like they're talking down to someone. They don't want to seem like they're trying to be somebody's dad or they're better than someone. How do you hold someone accountable internally if you're not crowned as being the captain by the coach?
Yeah, the first piece of advice I would have is I'm not looking to take anyone's advice who doesn't take their own advice. So if you don't practice what you preach, then don't come preaching to me. And that's just my personal mentality. And a lot of people I know operate the same way. Like, respect is earned, not given. So if you want to hold someone accountable, they have to respect you. If they don't respect you, there's no way on earth you can hold them accountable. So the first thing, you have to establish a position of respect. So if someone's late for practice, for example, which happens all the time, if someone's late for practice, it's very difficult to hold them accountable if you're late for practice. So that's the first thing I would say is practice what you preach and really be intentional about what it is you're preaching. Like, people often do this too. It's like, we had a star guy. He was a star guy. And he would take certain plays off, right? His ego started to build up a little bit. And people started to kind of complain about his lackadaisicalness, right? But he was still our star guy. My advice here is, and this one may be a little bit controversial, but I'm not interested necessarily in giving advice to the star guy. He's the star. Like, that's just not, that's going to cause more tension than it. My advice would be just go at him. go at that guy. Like say, okay, if he's taking this play off, call him out. I'll go up against you and kind of push him in competition rather than bickering at him, right? And so that's the way I saw things get done and people get held accountable is we called them out in competition. We didn't just bicker and say, oh, you need to do this and do that. Get on the court and show me. And typically the coach kind of likes that. Like, okay, this kind of brings that element to the game, like that fun, that competitive spirit. So those would be my two pieces of advice: is practice what you preach, and instead of doing a whole lot of talking and bickering, get them on the court, get them on the floor, and compete. Go at the head.
Being a student athlete and also working at the university for as many years as I've worked at the university, I realized that people have a different metric of success. And some people, their metric of success is just making it to the team, just making it on campus, just making it through the first semester. Then there's other people that has a higher sense of success, a higher metric of success. What do you think that sticking power was for you that allowed you to have longevity?
Yeah, I think, for me, I really did. I like to win. I hold myself to a high standard. And once you start practicing every day, whoop-de-doo. I'm not going to praise you for going to practice. You're supposed to go to practice. You're a college athlete. Now, what are you going to do next? Right? Okay, you showed up for class. That's great. Whoop-de-doo, though. You're supposed to show up for class. And so I think it's a mentality thing, and not everybody has that mentality. And that's okay. Everyone isn't like, you can't hold everyone to that kind of standard. But for those listening who want to have staying power, you have to continuously look to do more. And that's what I was able to do. I wasn't okay with just going to practice. I said, okay, everyone goes to practice. The dude on the bench had to show up for practice. What can I do outside of that can help me continue to progress? And that's the mentality I think it takes in any discipline. You got to continuously do more. It's not okay to just brush your teeth. You got to floss. You got to pick. You got to write. You got to do all this stuff. So that's what I think.
That goes into, that speaks a little bit more about habits again. Again, that word comes up again. These things don't just happen. It's a habit. So what type of winning habits have you seen? Have you been a part of? Have you witnessed that that people that may not have come from that culture of winning could learn from? Things that they want to integrate in what they have going on because they want to win more games. Things that they can definitely implement and mindset shifts that they can have as it relates to those winning habits that maybe they're just not aware of.
Yeah, this is probably the most important part of a winning program is the habits. And the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to winning habits is studying winners. So when you are looking at film, for example, there's a lot of coaches who start off the film session, a lot of programs I've been a part, and we just start to highlight everything you did wrong. Everything you did wrong. Why are we going to spend an hour looking at all the stuff we did to lose the game? To me, that's a losing mentality. The programs that I was in, we started off, when we watched film, we looked at winning habits. Look at this screen. This is a winning screen. Look at how he got in position. He got right up on his body. He set a hard screen. Look at how he dove on the ball when it was a loose ball. That's a winning play. And we looked at winning plays. If you want to be a loser, then study losers. So we always looked at winning stuff, winning habits that we did in every game. So that would be the first thing. When I wanted to get better at my game, I did not look up how the losing players. I looked up Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, right? I looked up the guy Steph Curry, right? I want to study from winners. And so that'd be what I advise is study winning habits, study winning coaches, study winning programs. I want to learn from winners and how I can adapt their habits. Those would be the habits I want to adapt. What time did Kobe Bryant get up? This is the most winning guy I know. What time, RIP to Kobe, what time did he get up? What were Kobe's habits? What did he eat? When did he eat? How did he train? Did he lift weights? So in order to have the habits, I can't tell everyone's schedule looks different. I can't advise you on exactly what habits to have. I will tell you to take your inspiration from the people you aspire to be like, or they're in positions you aspire to one day be in that position, and study their habits. That's what I would say.
Well, you're in a really unique situation because you've played at the highest level at a Division One program and won, and played a Division Two high level program and won as well. What do you feel like the major differences are between the two? Because there are a lot of people out there that are thumbing their nose at the Division Two process, but sounds to me that you enjoy both. So can you talk a little bit about the difference?
And this is a personal experience, so please take this with a grain of salt. Everyone's experience will not be the same as mine. But in Division One, there's a lot of selfishness. I'll say it that way. There's selfishness among the coaches. They're getting paid millions of dollars or high thousands of dollars to win games. So they're thinking about themselves and their career. This is about winning. And this is about me. The players, they go to Division One, they want to make the league. They have to score 30. I want to be the star player. This is about my highlight tape. I've met only a handful of good, genuine people who really care about your well-being. Division Two, of course, winning is number one, but um, they actually cared about my grades. Like they were like, okay, we don't want to just cut you. We don't want to just cut you off the team and find the next guy. They actually cared that we all maintain those grades. We cared the team camaraderie. We did things that were outside of the basketball court. We went paintballing, bowling, different activities and things of that nature that were a little bit outside of the scope of just basketball. And so that's two major difference. That's one major difference is D1, if you're an athlete, point blank period, win games, cut the check, that's it. Division Two, a little bit outside of that. Grades, right? We know where not everyone's going to go pro here. So what's your major, right? I mean, did you go to see your career counselor? Hey, is everyone available so we can do some different things? And it was a little bit more holistic than just athlete.
A lot of times winning is in a box. They think that just winning is associated with playing a sport, but winning goes on after your eligibility is up. What does winning look like in this next chapter of your life after playing sports in college?
For sure. Well, winning looks a whole lot different. I don't have a 30-game season anymore. There's no on or off season. The season is just life. So winning is, to me, one, health. Man, as you start to get out here, you realize, man, like, dude, people aren't healthy. And this doesn't sound like a win, but when you start to have people pass away, and you start to see people losing their life, killing themselves with unhealthy habits, health is a win. So that's what winning looks like to me in 2025 is being healthy, making healthy choices, and waking up every day like energized with energy. And so that's the first win, health. The second win is money, health and wealth. You got to be able to support. I have to be able to support myself, support my loved ones. And so, did I make some money today? If I made some money today, I feel like I feel good. That's a win. It's definitely a win column if I made some money. And then the third win that I'm really focusing on is just what I call just getting 1% better. Did I learn something new? Am I 1% better today than I was yesterday? And that could be in any different field. I could learn something I'm a digital marketing strategist by profession. So did I learn a new skill? Did I learn a new strategy? I'm also a very spiritual person. So did I get into the scripture, or did I learn a new virtue? Right? And so that's what winning looks like in three categories. It looks like health, it looks like wealth, and it looks like just personal development.
Well, Cole, I know you got to go. I definitely appreciate you carving out time to just drop a lot of wisdom on student athletes at any level. Middle school, high school, college, D1, D2, JUCO, all the things that you named today was applicable. And I definitely appreciate you just openly giving that information for these student athletes, man. Man, so much knowledge, man, inspired me, and I'm well beyond my years of playing as a student athlete. But I think a lot of these principles that you provided was not only just in the realm of being a student athlete. You talk about betting on yourself. You talk about being the first one in, the last one to leave. You talk about encouraging others. You're talking about being a good teammate, and man, that's. Those things never go out of style. So again, thank you for that. Is there any last thoughts, words, encouragement you want to give on the way out, man? Again, thank you so much for rocking with us, man. The floor is yours.
Sure. I don't think I have any quotes that just spring to mind, but my biggest piece of advice is just to start to develop a knowledge of self. Any of us associate our identity with our sport. And so that's perfectly fine. Like, I absolutely identify with being a basketball player to this day, even though I only play basketball Wednesday nights at 5:30. Like, I still associate with being a baller. Perfectly fine. But I also associate with being a brother. I also associate with being a son. I also associate with being a working professional. I also associate with being, a leader, a figure. And so I can keep going down the things that I associate with. But what else do you associate with outside of basketball? Right? And that's what you need to start to figure out. If you play ball now, or if you're transitioning out of a sports career, or if you're well into your career after sports, but still just not finding that purpose, what are you associating with when it comes to your actual being? Your being as a human being, that is. And I think those deeper, more spiritual questions are something that we all got to go down sooner than eventually. So why not just address those questions sooner than later? So, and then where you could find me, Instagram at Top Shelf Cole, YouTube Top Shelf Cole on YouTube. So YouTube and Instagram. I also have a website that you can get some mentorship, unlock some career opportunities. We've got job boards, job posting, exclusive job opportunities for anyone in the job market and the job hunt. We've got AI resume building tools, and you can find all of this at TopShelfMarketingPro.com. That's TopShelfMarketingPro.com. You can find some of these exclusive opportunities.
Hoop loud